So I feel like I've been stuck between a rock and a bad ISP lately. I've uploaded quite a few videos, or attempted to, and a lot of them, they abort partway through, and I'm having all kinds of issues, which is really frustrating. I'd made a video recently talking about the Charlie Hebdo murders and some thoughts that I had on that. And it was mostly a commentary on radicalization and fundamentalism, and something that was on Bill O'Reilly. I'm not all that interested in sort of capitalizing on a bad situation like that to sort of push my own ideas out there. But I did want to comment on some of the things that I saw doing in that regard. In other words, to comment on the commenting. And I'd uploaded that video, and I thought it was actually a pretty good video, and I was going to splice in a little bit of a preamble to it, so I didn't turn it public. Subsequently, I was recording some other videos and ran out of room on my phone, and so I had to delete something, and I thought, well, I've already uploaded that, so I'll delete that. Then when I went to edit it later, I found out that actually it had aborted partway through, and I only have a portion of it. And it's really frustrating because it was something where I made an impassioned plea towards the end. I got a little bit emotional, and I think it was a good video, and it's gone now because I deleted it. The main point that I wanted to make, the point of that video actually in a nutshell had to do with, some of the reasonings that people like to attribute to what other people do. And Bill O'Reilly, I think, correctly pointed out that there are many in the media, especially in the seemingly left side of the media, who are not willing to call what happened in Paris what it is. They want to talk about, some murders took place, and they don't really want to attribute any fundamentalist or extremist, radical Islamist ideology to that. And he was saying, we need to call things what they are. And I agree with that. The interesting part about that particular discussion was in that same episode of the O'Reilly Factor, he was also talking about, can a conservative Christian get elected president? Is that possible in an increasingly secular America? And then he posted a clip of Mike Huckabee saying, we don't have I can't remember the quote completely, it was something like, we don't have a crime problem in America. We don't have a drug problem in America. We have a sin problem, and sort of, hinting at his definitely more fundamentalist roots. And I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition of those two things. The main thing I wanted to comment on today with today's video is not taking people at their word. And that's not to say that you believe someone when they tell you something. But I think certainly it's important when someone commits some sort of an act and they tell us about their intentions, either beforehand or during the event or afterwards, it's kind of important to listen to that. It's important to, at the very least, that we analyze it. It's not that we take it on its face value, but I think it's important when people tell you things like that. I mean, you can imagine if you were someone, even if you were sort of courting the fringes of sanity, or if you were someone who had been led down a path of political ideology and you were about to commit some heinous act as a result of either of those things, and you wrote down your feelings on pen and paper, and after the fact you've been incarcerated and you heard that people had completely disregarded basically your admission of your motivation behind it, and no one was paying any attention to that, you'd kind of think, wow, that's weird. Wouldn't you think that's a little odd? I'm referring to, I've got 3 examples of that where I've seen this take place. I've seen this take place with the Elliot Rodger mass murder, where he left behind quite a communique of all of his thoughts and feelings about why he did what he did, or what led him to that point. And a lot of people have disregarded that entirely. There are a lot of clues in there, I think, as to what created the person who he became. And a lot of people, to further their own agenda, have disregarded that necessarily to further their own agenda, which I think is really, really disgusting. And I may make a further video on that, because I have watched quite a few videos in the last few days where people have decided to completely disregard even his own words and all available evidence, and have jumped to conclusions to further an agenda, which is absolutely disgusting. And of course, they will portray all this righteous indignation about the poor people that were killed, but they're sitting there using the deaths of those people to further their own agenda against all available evidence, which is really, really abhorrent. Another good example is Osama bin Laden. After the 9/11 terror attacks, it was made clear by him why he had declared jihad against the West. He made those statements clear, and everyone seems to sort of disregard that. And again, that's not to say you give it legitimacy by paying attention to it, or that you even believe him, but you should analyze it. You should. I think that's extremely important information. And if you're going to be rational, and if you're going to value humanity over politics, humanity over geopolitics, humanity over geoeconomics and things like that, then it really, I think, is important to listen to people's stated intentions and stated motives for things. And of course, the final would be, of the three examples I'm going to give, would be the Charlie Hebdo murders, where people have discounted that Islam has anything to do with these murders. And these guys are yelling in the streets that they've avenged the Prophet Muhammad and Allah. They've quite clearly made the case that their actions were motivated by certain beliefs in the faith of Islam. Now, can that be disconnected from what moderate Muslims believe? I suppose so, by the evidence of the fact that they're not out there committing the same atrocities, obviously. I think it does pose a bit of a question or a problem when it comes to how a moderate actually justifies or rationalizes the fact that they're not willing to, or that they even do decry such acts of violence when those very pronouncements are made in the religious text that they claim to believe in. I'm not sure how one rationalizes that, and at the risk of offending moderate Christians out there, the Jeff Heisenbergs of this world, who I appreciate, I often wonder how a Christian rationalizes a lot of these things. Even Bill O'Reilly, in the very TV program that I was referring to, had some quotes from the Old Testament that were pretty horrific, and he basically was saying, there are bad things in our religious texts as well, but that doesn't mean we go out and commit these things. But I just don't understand how someone like Bill O'Reilly even rationalizes when Jesus did come along and say, hey, listen, I have not come to change anything here, but simply to reinforce it, really, jots and tittles and all that, right? And so I'm not sure how one rationalizes that, but I think it should be obviously said that the people who commit the murders are the people who commit the murders. Those are the people responsible. And I don't think you can blame, obviously, this is victim blaming to say that these guys were being provocative at Charlie Hebdo. They may have been being provocative, but being provocative in any rational society does not come with a death sentence. And, we've long since recognized that. The laws of the West and the laws of France certainly recognize that. And I think it's important to be aware of and to analyze the stated intentions and motives of the people who carry out these heinous acts if we ever expect to learn anything about these kind of incidents, and if we ever expect to at some point in our evolutionary cycle here rid ourselves of these kind of atrocities. I'm going to try and keep this video under 10 minutes to see if it will successfully upload. May the force be with me or something. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.